My name is Flora. I am 58 years old and I spent my entire retirement party dreaming about sleeping past 6 in the morning. 35 years as a nurse, 35 years of night shifts and double shifts, and patients who needed me more than I needed sleep. My coworkers at the hospital gave me flowers, a cake, with Happy Retirement Flora written in blue frosting. I smiled, hugged everyone, and drove home with that cake sitting in the passenger seat, thinking about all the mornings I would finally wake up without an alarm. I thought about reading books on my little porch, maybe taking a painting class, visiting my sister in California. When I pulled into the driveway of my son's house, I was so full of hope. I had no idea my real work was just beginning. Before I tell you what happened when I walked through that door, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you have ever felt unappreciated by your own family, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear how I turned everything around. Trust me, you will want to stick around for this. I carried the leftover cake through the front door, already imagining sharing it with Kevin and Amber over dinner. The house was a 2-story colonial in the suburbs of Portland, Oregon. I had lived here for 3 years, ever since my husband, Antonio, died suddenly of a heart attack at 53. Kevin had insisted I move in with them. "You should not be alone, Mom. We are family." At the time, I thought I was lucky to have such a caring son. I had sold my old house and gave Kevin $40,000 to help with the down payment on this place. I kept one small room on the first floor for myself. It was enough. The smell of coffee from the automatic machine filled the air as I stepped inside. Afternoon sunlight came through the kitchen windows, making everything look warm and golden. I heard voices from the kitchen, tense voices. I paused, then walked in with my brightest smile holding up the cake box. I brought some cake from the party. "Want to celebrate with me?" Kevin looked up from his laptop. He was 32, with my late husband's dark hair and my light eyes, but his expression held no warmth. "Mom, we need to talk." Amber sat across from him, scrolling through her phone. She was 29, blonde, always perfectly dressed. She did not look up. My smile faltered, but I kept it in place. "Of course, honey. What is on your mind?" I set the cake on the counter and pulled out a chair. Kevin closed his laptop with a decisive click. "Now that you are retired, we need to discuss the household expenses." My stomach tightened slightly, but I nodded. "Of course. I have my pension. I can help with bills." Kevin leaned back in his chair. "Amber and I have been covering everything, Mom. The mortgage, utilities, groceries, everything. We cannot keep supporting an extra mouth." The words hit me like cold water. Extra mouth. I was an extra mouth. I tried to keep my voice steady. "I understand. My pension is $2,800 a month. That should help with my share." Kevin shook his head. "Your pension barely covers anything, Mom. You need to contribute more." I blinked, confused. More than $2,800 a month. For one person. Kevin turned his laptop around so I could see the screen. "I found you a job. You start tomorrow." The room seemed to tilt. Tomorrow. But I just retired today. He pointed at the screen showing a job listing. "It is at a grocery store. Save Mart. Just bagging groceries and stocking shelves. Easy work. You are still healthy and strong. No reason you cannot work." Amber finally spoke, her voice flat and cold. "We all have to pull our weight, Flora. You understand, right? I noticed she called me Flora. Not Mom, just Flora. Like I was a roommate, not family." Kevin continued, his tone businesslike. "The pay is $12 an hour. You will work 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. That will help cover your portion of the bills." I did the math quickly in my head. $360 a week before taxes, maybe $300 after. $1,200 a month. Combined with my pension. "What about my pension?" I asked quietly. "We will need to discuss how to manage that properly. For now, focus on the job. I need you there at 8 tomorrow morning. I will drive you." I looked at my son, searching his face for some sign of the boy I had raised alone after his father died. The boy I had worked 2 jobs to put through college. The boy who used to hug me and say, "I love you, Mom," every night before bed. That boy was gone. In his place sat a stranger with cold eyes and a spreadsheet where his heart should be. But he was still my son. And maybe he was just stressed. Maybe this was temporary. Maybe if I helped, things would get better. I forced a smile. Okay, honey, if that is what you need, I will do it. Kevin nodded and opened his laptop again. Good. Be ready by 7 tomorrow morning. The store opens at 8. He went back to typing. Amber went back to her phone. The conversation was over. I stood up, leaving the cake on the counter, and walked to my small room at the back of the first floor. That night, I lay in my narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. The room was barely big enough for the bed, a small dresser, and a chair. My nursing textbooks were still packed in boxes in the corner. I had planned to donate them. Now I wondered if I should keep them, just in case. My chest felt tight, like something was pressing down on me, but I told myself it would be okay. This was just a difficult phase. Kevin was under pressure at work. They had bills. I would help, and everything would go back to normal. Still, as I finally drifted to sleep, a small voice in the back of my mind whispered that something was very wrong. My alarm went off at 5:30 in the morning, though I barely needed it. After 35 years of early shifts, my body woke automatically. I showered and dressed in the uniform Kevin had bought for me the night before leaving it outside my door like a hotel concierge. A blue polo shirt with the Save Mart logo and black khaki pants. I looked at myself in the small mirror above my dresser. My hair, which I kept dyed a soft brown to cover the gray, was pulled back in a ponytail. My face showed every one of my 58 years' lines around my eyes and mouth from decades of smiling at patients even when I was exhausted. I had stood for 12-hour shifts throughout my nursing career. My legs were still strong, my back still straight. But today, I was not putting on scrubs to help save lives. I was putting on a polo shirt to stock shelves. I went to the kitchen. Kevin was already there drinking coffee and checking his phone. Ready, Mom. His voice was clipped efficient. I nodded, grabbing a banana from the fruit bowl on the counter. There was no breakfast prepared, no coffee offered. I peeled the banana and ate it in 3 bites while Kevin finished his coffee. The drive to Save Mart was silent except for the low murmur of the radio playing soft rock. I watched the familiar streets of Portland pass by the coffee shops just opening, joggers on the sidewalks, the city waking up. I used to drive myself to the hospital at this hour, listening to medical podcasts, mentally preparing for whatever emergency might come through the doors that day. Now I sat in the passenger seat like a child being driven to school, my hands folded in my lap. The manager's name is Harold. He knows you are starting today. Just do what he says. Kevin pulled into the Save Mart parking lot and stopped near the entrance. He did not turn off the engine, did not get out, did not walk me inside. I will pick you up at 2. Then he drove away. I stood in the parking lot watching his car disappear, then turned and walked through the automatic doors. The store smelled clean, like recently mopped floors and industrial air freshener. A few early morning shoppers pushed carts through the aisles. Soft music played from overhead speakers. You must be Flora. I turned to see a man in his early 40s, balding with a round belly, straining against his Save Mart polo. He smiled warmly. Welcome aboard. I am Harold, the store manager. His handshake was firm but friendly. He walked me through the store, showing me the produce section, the canned goods aisles, the checkout lanes. Your main job is restocking shelves and helping customers when they need it. Pretty straightforward. We are not super busy in the morning, so you will have time to learn the layout. He introduced me to my coworkers. Patricia was a Hispanic woman around 45 with kind eyes and quick hands arranging apples in perfect pyramids. She had worked at Save Mart for 10 years. Jerome was a young black man, maybe 22, unloading boxes in the back. He was in college, part-time, studying business. Linda was a white woman close to my age, 50, with tired eyes and work-worn hands. She was a widow raising 2 teenagers. First day, Patricia asked as Harold left me with her. Don't worry, you will get the hang of it. I smiled, grateful for the kindness. I am used to hard work, just different work. She showed me how to stock shelves, rotating older products to the front, checking expiration dates, keeping everything neat and faced forward. The work was simple but physical, lifting boxes, bending down, reaching up, walking miles through the store. After 2 hours, my lower back started to ache in a way it had not in years. When I was a nurse, my body hurt too, but that pain had purpose. I was saving lives, comforting patients, making a difference. This pain felt empty, meaningless. At noon, Harold told me to take my lunch break. The break room was a small, windowless space with a microwave, a vending machine, and a table with mismatched chairs. It smelled like reheated leftovers and burnt coffee. I pulled out the sandwich I had made that morning, turkey and lettuce on wheat bread, and sat down. Patricia came in a minute later, carrying a container of rice and beans. She sat across from me. "So, what made you decide to work here? You seem, I don't know, different from the usual hires." I hesitated. How much should I say I just retired from nursing? But my son thought it would be good for me to stay active. Patricia raised her eyebrows. "Active, honey, you should be traveling, enjoying life. That is what retirement is for." I tried to laugh it off. Well, he thinks I should contribute to household expenses. Patricia was quiet for a moment, studying me. "You live with your son?" I nodded. "And he asked you to work here on your first day of retirement." There was something in her tone, something that made my stomach twist. I looked down at my sandwich. "He is just worried about money. Times are tough." Patricia leaned forward slightly. "Look, I do not mean to pry, but I have seen this before. Adult kids taking advantage of their parents. You have a pension, right?" "Yes." "Then, why do you need to work minimum wage?" The question hung in the air. I did not have an answer, or rather, I did not want to face the answer that was forming in my mind. The rest of the shift passed in a blur of stocking shelves and helping customers find items. My feet hurt, my back hurt, but more than that, my heart hurt. Patricia's question kept echoing. Why did I need to work minimum wage? At 2:00, Kevin's car pulled up outside. I clocked out, said goodbye to Patricia, and walked to the car. Kevin did not ask how my day was. He just drove. Halfway home, I gathered my courage. "Kevin, honey, about my pension check. When does it come in?" "Don't worry about it, Mom." I set up direct deposit to my account for easier management. My hands went cold. "Your account. When did you do that? A few months ago. Remember?" "You signed some papers?" I did remember. Sort of. One evening, Kevin had brought me a stack of documents. Insurance stuff, he had said. Health insurance updates. I trusted him. I had signed without reading carefully. That was what mothers did, right? They trusted their children. "But Kevin, that is my money. I should have access to it." His jaw tightened. "Mom, we are a family. We share expenses. This makes it easier to manage the bills." I wanted to argue, wanted to demand answers, but the coldness in his voice stopped me. I sat in silence for the rest of the drive, a knot of anxiety growing in my chest. Something was very, very wrong. 3 days later, while Kevin and Amber were at work, I decided to check my bank account. I had not looked in months. There had been no reason to. I trusted Kevin. That trust, I was beginning to realize, had been a mistake. I opened my laptop, the old one I had bought years ago and barely used anymore. My hands shook as I logged into my bank's website. The page loaded slowly, and when the account balance appeared, I gasped out loud. $342. That could not be right. I refreshed the page. The number stayed the same. $342. Last time I checked, maybe 2 months ago, I had over $18,000 in savings. Money I had carefully set aside from years of working overtime, of skipping vacations, of living frugally so I would have security in my old age. I clicked on the transaction history, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The list of transactions made me feel sick. Transfer to Kevin Morrison, $5,000. Notation said household expenses. Transfer to Kevin Morrison, $3,000. Notation said car payment. Transfer to Kevin Morrison, $7,000. Notation said home improvement. Cash withdrawal, $2,500. No notation. I had not withdrawn that money. Kevin must have. All of this in the last 2 months. My life savings disappearing in chunks while I had been too trusting, too naive, too much of a fool to notice. With trembling fingers, I checked my pension account online. Kevin had been telling the truth about one thing. The pension payments were being directly deposited into an account. But it was his account, not mine. I had no access, no control, no way to see where my money was going. I printed out copies of all the transactions, page after page of my money being transferred away. I folded them carefully and hid them in the bottom drawer of my dresser under old sweaters I never wore. That evening, I waited for Kevin to come home. Amber arrived first, dropping her purse on the kitchen counter and heading straight upstairs without a word to me. When Kevin walked in 20 minutes later, I was sitting at the kitchen table, the printed bank statements in front of me. "Kevin, we need to talk about my bank accounts." He set down his briefcase. "What about them?" I checked today. "There is almost nothing left in my savings." "Where did my money go?" Kevin did not look surprised, did not look guilty, did not look anything except mildly annoyed at being questioned. "I told you, Mom. Household expenses. This house is not cheap. $18,000 in 2 months for household expenses." He pulled out a chair and sat down, his expression hardening. "There were other things. My car broke down. We needed to fix the roof. Amber needed some dental work. Why did you not discuss with me first?" "That is my life savings." Kevin stood up abruptly. "You are living under our roof, eating our food, using our utilities." "Did you think that was free?" Amber appeared in the doorway, arms crossed over her chest. "Maybe if you contributed more, we would not need to use your savings." I felt like I had been slapped, but I am working now. "And my pension?" Kevin cut me off. "Your pension barely covers your share. And that job you are making, 300-something a week, that is pocket change." The conversation spiraled from there, going nowhere. Every point I tried to make, Kevin deflected or turned back on me. Finally, I retreated to my room, my whole body shaking. I sat on the edge of my bed and cried quietly, not wanting them to hear. This was not stress. This was not temporary. This was deliberate, calculated. My son was stealing from me. The next day at work, I must have looked terrible because Patricia took one look at me during our break and said, "Flora, you okay? You look like you did not sleep." I had not slept. I had lain awake all night staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what to do. And sitting across from Patricia in that dingy break room, something inside me broke. I told her everything, the missing money, the pension being diverted to Kevin's account, the way he spoke to me, the way Amber looked at me like I was an inconvenience instead of family. Patricia listened without interrupting. When I finished, she reached across the table and took my hand. "Flora, this is financial abuse, plain and simple. But he is my son. He would not—" "Listen to me." Patricia's voice was firm. "I have been there. My brother did the same thing to my mother. By the time we caught it, she had nothing left. You need to act now." She laid out a plan. "Change all my passwords. Call the bank and report the unauthorized transactions. Contact a lawyer who specialized in elder law. And most importantly, get out of that house. But that is my son. That is my home. I helped buy that house." Patricia leaned forward. "Is your name on the deed?" I went silent. When we bought the house, Kevin said it would be easier to get the mortgage in his name only. Cleaner paperwork, he had said. Better interest rates. I had believed him. "Then, legally, you have no claim," Patricia said gently. "You are just a tenant, or, worse, a guest who can be kicked out any time." The words hit me like a truck. I had given my son $40,000 and I had no legal claim to the house. I had given him access to my accounts and he had drained them. I had trusted him with everything and he had taken everything. During my afternoon break, I stepped outside and called my bank from my cell phone. The customer service representative confirmed what I already suspected. Kevin Morrison is listed as a joint account holder and has power of attorney on file. Power of attorney? I never gave him that. According to our records, ma'am, the notarized document was filed 6 months ago. I remembered then. After Antonio died, Kevin had said we needed to set up some legal protections. Just in case something happens to you, Mom. I want to be able to take care of things. I had gone with him to a notary, signed papers I had not read carefully because I trusted my son. Those papers had given him complete control over my finances. "If you want to revoke this," the representative continued, "you will need to come in person with proper identification and possibly legal documentation." "Can I freeze the account?" "Stop him from taking more money." "Not without the joint account holder's consent." "I am afraid." I thanked her and hung up. Stood there in the Save Mart parking lot watching cars pull in and out, feeling more helpless than I had ever felt in my life. But beneath the helplessness, something else was growing. Something hard and cold and determined. I was not going to be a victim. Not anymore. The following Saturday, Kevin and Amber went out. Some friends were having a barbecue, they said. They would be gone most of the day. As soon as their car pulled out of the driveway, I went upstairs. I had not been to the second floor in months. Kevin and Amber had made it clear they did not like me up there. "This is our private space," Amber had said once. "Can you please stay downstairs?" But this was still technically my house too. At least I had paid for part of it. I needed to know what was really going on. The living room on the second floor had changed since I had last seen it. A massive flat-screen television dominated one wall. A new leather sofa sat in front of it. Expensive-looking art hung on the walls. I walked into the master bedroom, a king-size bed with a carved wooden headboard. New furniture everywhere. A walk-in closet full of designer clothes, price tags still attached to some items. On Kevin's desk, his laptop sat open. I should not have looked, but I did. The email on the screen made my blood run cold. Subject line said, "Cruise Confirmation Caribbean Getaway." I clicked on it. Kevin and Amber had booked a 14-day cruise leaving next month. The cost was $8,500 for 2 people in a suite cabin with a private balcony, all inclusive. I scrolled through more emails, credit card statements showing dinners at expensive restaurants, shopping sprees at luxury stores, an email from a car dealership where Amber was looking at a new Lexus, an email from a real estate agent about a larger house in a wealthy neighborhood across town. They were not struggling. They were not barely making ends meet. They were spending money like water while telling me we had to cut back while making me work a minimum wage job while draining my life savings. I heard a car door slam outside. My heart jumped into my throat. They were home early. I closed the laptop, rushed out of the room, and hurried downstairs. By the time Kevin and Amber walked through the front door carrying shopping bags from high-end stores, I was sitting in my room door closed, trying to calm my racing heart. But I was done being calm, done being quiet, done being taken advantage of. That evening, when Kevin and Amber were unpacking their shopping bags in the kitchen, I walked in and stood my ground. "Kevin, I need to know the truth. Where is my money really going?" Kevin set down a bag. "We have been through this, Mom." "No," I said firmly. "I saw the emails, the cruise, the new car you are planning to buy, all while telling me we are struggling." Kevin's face went red. "You went through my email. How dare you? It was open. I was not snooping. But I am glad I saw it. You have been lying to me." Amber stepped forward, her voice sharp. "We deserve nice things too, Flora. We work hard." With my money, I shouted. I had not meant to shout, but the words exploded out of me. Money I saved for decades. Kevin slammed his hand on the counter. "That house you are so proud of contributing to, I paid for it. You just chipped in. I gave you $40,000 for the down payment. That was most of my savings at the time. And you have been living here rent-free ever since." "Rent-free?" My voice shook. "You are taking my pension, my savings, and now forcing me to work a minimum wage job?" Amber's eyes narrowed. "No one is forcing you. You can leave any time." The words hung in the air like poison. "Leave. This is my home too." Kevin's voice went cold. "Actually, Mom, it is not. The house is in my name. You are here because I allow it. I felt my legs go weak. I am your mother, and I took care of you after Dad died. I gave you a place to live. Now it is time you took care of yourself." Amber added, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Honestly, Flora, you are draining us. We cannot keep supporting you forever." I looked at my son, really looked at him, and did not recognize the person staring back. "When did you become this person?" Kevin did not answer. He just picked up the shopping bags and walked upstairs, Amber following behind him. I stood alone in the kitchen, tears streaming down my face. But this time, the tears were not just from sadness, they were from anger, from determination, from the absolute certainty that I was not going to let this continue. That night, I sat in my small room and looked around. A narrow bed, an old dresser, a small desk with a photo of Antonio, my late husband, smiling at the camera. He had been 53 when he died. Too young, too sudden. If he were here now, would he have let Kevin treat me this way? Would he have seen the signs I had missed? I pulled out the bank statements from my drawer, looked at every transaction. Every theft, because that was what it was, theft. Then I looked at my old documents, the receipt showing my $40,000 contribution to the house, the original papers from when Kevin had gotten power of attorney, my nursing license, still valid, my pension statements. I was 58 years old, not ancient, not helpless. For 35 years, I had been a nurse. I had handled emergencies, made life or death decisions, comforted dying patients, stood up to difficult doctors. I had raised a child alone after my husband died. I had worked 2 jobs to put Kevin through college. I was not weak. I had just forgotten my own strength. I wiped my eyes, sat up straight, and made a decision. Enough. The next morning, I did not wait for Kevin to drive me to work. I called an Uber and got to Save Mart early. I found Patricia before our shift started. I need your help. I am ready to fight back. Patricia smiled. Good. Let me tell you what to do. We sat in the break room and Patricia laid out a detailed plan. First, contact a lawyer who specialized in elder rights. She had a friend named Sarah who did pro bono work through a nonprofit organization. Second, gather every piece of evidence I had. Third, report Kevin to Adult Protective Services. Fourth, open a new bank account that he could not access. Fifth, find a new place to live. I do not have money to pay a lawyer, I said. There are organizations that help, Patricia assured me. Sarah will do a free consultation. We will figure out the rest. She called her friend right then. Sarah could see me the next day during my lunch break. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. I felt hope. Sarah's law office was in downtown Portland, a small but professional space on the 3rd floor of an older building. Sarah herself was in her mid-40s with short dark hair, glasses, and an air of no-nonsense competence that immediately put me at ease. Patricia told me about your situation. Let's see what we can do. I laid out everything, the bank statements, the emails I had photographed on my phone showing Kevin's expensive purchases, the receipt for my $40,000 contribution to the house, the power of attorney documents I had found. Sarah reviewed everything carefully, occasionally making notes on a legal pad. When she finished, she looked up at me with serious eyes. This is textbook financial exploitation of an elderly person. Your son has clearly breached his fiduciary duty as your power of attorney. These transactions are illegal. She explained my options. I could sue Kevin in civil court to recover the money. I could report him to Adult Protective Services and potentially pursue criminal charges. I could revoke his power of attorney and freeze any remaining assets. What do you want to happen, Flora? I thought about it. Despite everything, he was still my son. I want my money back. I want my independence. But I do not want him to go to jail. Sarah nodded. I understand. We can start with a civil approach. We will send him a demand letter requiring full repayment and immediate revocation of his access to your accounts. If he refuses, then we escalate. We can also help you find safe housing. How much will this cost? Sarah smiled gently. There is a nonprofit I work with that provides legal services to exploited seniors. We can take your case pro bono. You will not pay anything. I started crying again, but this time from relief. Someone was helping me. Someone believed me. Someone was going to fight for me. Within an hour, Sarah had drawn up a demand letter. It would be sent to Kevin by certified mail, requiring him to respond within 10 days. In the meantime, she helped me file a complaint with Adult Protective Services and gave me information about emergency housing for seniors. Patricia was waiting for me when I got back to Save Mart. How did it go? I hugged her tight. Thank you. Thank you for saving my life. Over the next few days, Patricia helped me look at apartments. We found a small studio in a building specifically for people over 55. The rent was $850 a month, including utilities. It had a tiny kitchen, a bathroom, a bedroom area, and a small balcony overlooking a park. It was not much, but it was mine. The building manager, Mrs. Dorothy, was a kind black woman in her 70s. We have a lovely community here, dear. Lots of activities. Very safe. You will like it. When can I move in first of the month? Just need first month's rent and security deposit. I calculated in my head. I needed $1,700. My paycheck from Save Mart was not enough yet. I had only been working 2 weeks. Patricia must have seen my face fall. I can lend you some. Pay me back when you get your settlement from Kevin. I could not believe her kindness. Why are you helping me so much? Because someone helped my mother when we finally figured out what my brother was doing to her. This is me paying it forward. I took the loan and signed the lease. My move-in date was 3 weeks away. For those 3 weeks, I lived in Kevin's house like a ghost. I went to work, came home, stayed in my room. I did not argue with Kevin or Amber, did not confront them, just quietly, methodically prepared to leave. In secret, I packed my belongings, not much. Photos of Antonio and my parents, my mother's jewelry that Kevin did not know about, important documents, clothes, books. Everything fit into 4 boxes and 2 suitcases. I opened a new bank account at a different bank, changed the direct deposit for my SaveMart paychecks to go there. Started the process of redirecting my pension payments, though that would take time. I changed all my passwords, email, Facebook, everything. Bought a new cell phone with a new number that Kevin would not have. All in silence, all in secret. All while Kevin and Amber continued their lives oblivious. One evening, I heard them talking in the living room. I was in my room door closed, but their voices carried. The old lady finally calmed down. I thought she would be more trouble. Amber laughed. Told you, she is too soft, won't do anything. Good. As soon as we get the equity loan approved, we will have enough for the down payment on the new house. What about her? Think she will move with us? Hell no. We will tell her the new place does not have extra room. She can figure it out. They laughed together. I sat on my bed listening. But this time, I did not cry. I smiled, just a small, cold smile. They had no idea what was coming. 1 week later, a mail carrier arrived with a certified letter for Kevin. I was home having taken the afternoon off from work. Kevin came home during his lunch break to sign for it. I watched from my room as he opened it in the kitchen, watched his face go pale, watched his hands start to shake as he read Sarah's demand letter. It was very clear. He had 10 days to return $18,000 to my account. He had to immediately revoke his power of attorney and remove himself from all my accounts. If he did not comply, we would file a civil lawsuit and report him for financial exploitation to the authorities. Kevin grabbed his phone and called Amber. His voice was panicked. She did it. She actually did it. She got a lawyer. I sat in my room listening to him panic and felt absolutely nothing except a grim sense of satisfaction. The war had begun, and I was going to win. That evening, Kevin burst into my room without knocking. He was holding Sarah's letter, his face red with anger. What the hell is this, Mom? I looked up from the book I was reading. Calmly, I set it down. It is a legal demand for you to return my money. You hired a lawyer. Are you insane? No. I am finally thinking clearly. Amber appeared behind him in the doorway. You cannot do this. We are family. I stood up, facing them both. Family does not steal from each other. Kevin stepped forward. Steal. I did not steal anything. That was household expenses. For the first time in months, I did not back down. I stood my ground and looked my son in the eye. $8,500 for a cruise. Designer clothes. A new car you are planning to buy. That is not household expenses, Kevin. That is theft. How did you... His face went even redder. Did you go through my computer? The emails were open, but yes, I saw everything. I have copies, screenshots. I have evidence of every penny you took. Amber's voice turned shrill. You have no right to snoop, and you have no right to my money. I worked 35 years for that. You think I do not deserve to enjoy my retirement? Kevin tried to change tactics, his voice softening artificially. Mom, come on. Let's talk about this. We do not need lawyers. We are family. I shook my head. You made it clear I am not family. I am just an extra mouth. Remember, Kevin opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no response. I continued, my voice steady and strong. And by the way, the house, I have records showing I paid $40,000 toward the down payment. My lawyer says I may have a claim to partial ownership. That was a gift, Kevin said weakly. Was it? Where is the gift letter? Where is any document saying that because I have the bank transfer receipt, I have my bank statements, I have proof? The room went silent. Kevin and Amber looked at each other. I could see the panic in their eyes. They had thought I would never fight back. They had underestimated me. Finally, Kevin turned and left without another word. Amber followed him. I heard them arguing upstairs late into the night. The next day, Sarah called me. He called. He wants to negotiate. Good, I said. The meeting took place at Sarah's office 2 days later. Kevin and Amber brought a lawyer, though he looked young and inexperienced. Probably someone cheap they found last minute. Sarah laid out the terms clearly. Kevin would return the full $18,000 within 30 days. He would immediately revoke his power of attorney and remove his name from all my accounts. He would pay Sarah's legal fees, which came to $2,500 for her work so far. And I would move out immediately with no further claims on the house. Kevin tried to negotiate. I do not have $18,000 in cash right now. Sarah was unmoved. Then sell something. The new television, the new furniture. Cancel the cruise and get a refund. I do not care how you get it. You have 30 days. Amber started crying. We have been looking forward to that trip. I looked at her coldly. I have been looking forward to retirement, but here I am bagging groceries because of you. The negotiations went back and forth for an hour. Finally, Kevin agreed to all terms. The cruise would be canceled. Some furniture would be sold. He would borrow from his retirement account if necessary. But he would pay. Everything was put into a legal agreement. Kevin signed it, his hand shaking. Amber cried through the whole thing. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just a deep, bone-weary sadness for what my family had become. But I also felt something else. Relief. Freedom. The knowledge that I had stood up for myself. 1 week later, on the first day of the month, Patricia, Linda, and Jerome came to help me move. Jerome had borrowed his brother's pickup truck. My belongings fit easily, just a few boxes and 2 suitcases. 35 years of life, and this was all I needed. Kevin and Amber were not home. They had made sure of it. I walked through the house one last time, the living room where Kevin and I used to watch movies together when he was young, the kitchen where I had made him breakfast every morning before school. My little room now empty except for the furniture that had been there when I moved in. This had not been my home. Not really. I had just been staying in someone else's house. Now I was going to my own home. Patricia put a hand on my shoulder. You okay? I will be. Mrs. Dorothy was waiting at my new apartment building holding the keys. Welcome home, dear. The word home made me tear up, but these were good tears. Tears of relief. We carried my boxes up to the 3rd floor. The studio apartment was small but clean. Sunlight came through the window. The balcony overlooked a small park where children were playing. It was quiet. It was mine. After everyone left, I sat on the balcony with a cup of tea. My phone rang. It was Sarah. The check cleared. All $18,000. I closed my eyes. Thank you. For everything. There is one more thing. Kevin has been removed from all your accounts. Your pension will be redirected to your new account starting next month. You are financially independent again. After I hung up, I sat there for a long time watching the sun set over the park. 58 years old. No husband. No son, at least not anymore. But I had myself. I had my freedom. I had my money. I had my life back, and that was enough. 3 months passed like water flowing downstream. Smooth. Peaceful, mine. I sat on my balcony on a cool autumn morning holding a mug of coffee watching the park below. A mother pushed a stroller. An elderly man walked his dog. 2 kids threw a football back and forth. Normal life. Beautiful life. My own life had found a rhythm. After careful thought, I decided I did not want to work at Save Mart anymore. Not because the work was beneath me, but because I wanted to do something that mattered. I was still a licensed nurse. I still had skills. I still had so much to give. I found a part-time position at a senior community center providing basic health consultations and wellness checks. 20 hours a week, $28 an hour. It was not about the money, though, that helped. It was about feeling useful again. About helping people who actually appreciated it. Mrs. Henderson, an 82-year-old woman with diabetes, always thanked me profusely when I helped her understand her medication schedule. Mr. Thompson, a 76-year-old veteran, loved telling me stories about his time in Vietnam while I checked his blood pressure. These people needed me, and I needed them. I had also built a life outside of work, a real life. I joined a book club at the local library where we met every other Tuesday. I took a watercolor painting class on Saturday mornings. I volunteered at a food bank on Sunday afternoons. I had made friends, real friends. People who valued me for who I was, not what I could give them. Patricia and I still had lunch together every week, even though I no longer worked at Save Mart. She had become one of my closest friends. Mrs. Dorothy, my building manager, often knocked on my door to invite me to the community activities. Game nights, movie nights, potluck dinners. My finances had stabilized. With my pension and my part-time income, I was bringing in about $3,800 a month. My rent and utilities were $850. I had money for food, for activities, for savings. For the first time in months, I was not worried about money. I was not dependent on anyone. I had even started saving again. A small emergency fund growing slowly but steadily. It would take time to rebuild what Kevin had taken, but I had time. I was 58, not 80. I had years ahead of me. Sometimes late at night, I thought about Kevin, wondered how he was doing, wondered if he ever felt guilty about what he had done. I had not heard from him since the day I moved out. No phone calls, no texts, no apologies, nothing. But another part of me, the wiser part, knew that some relationships were too broken to fix, that some people would always see you as someone to use rather than someone to love, that sometimes the kindest thing you could do for yourself was to walk away and not look back. I did not hate Kevin. The anger had faded months ago. Now, there was just a quiet sadness for what could have been for the mother-son relationship I had imagined, but never really had. But I did not need his love or approval to be happy. I had learned that. I had learned a lot of things. I learned that loving someone did not mean letting them hurt you. That family was not defined by blood, but by how people treated you. That sacrifice was only meaningful if it was appreciated, not expected. I learned that I was stronger than I ever thought, that at 58, I could start completely over. That independence was not just about money, but about dignity and self-respect. I learned that my value was not in what I could do for others, but in who I was as a person. That retirement did not mean my life was over. It meant my life was finally my own. Most importantly, I learned that it was never too late to stand up for yourself. Never too late to say enough. Never too late to choose yourself. I thought about Patricia's mother, about all the other seniors who were being exploited by the people who were supposed to love them. How many were too afraid or too ashamed to fight back? How many believed they deserved it? How many died without ever reclaiming their dignity? I had been lucky. I had Patricia. I had Sarah. I had people who helped me, but not everyone did. So I started volunteering with the same nonprofit that had provided my legal services. I talked to other seniors about financial exploitation, shared my story, helped them understand their rights, encouraged them to speak up, to fight back, to know their worth. Turning my pain into purpose made it mean something, made the whole terrible experience worthwhile. I finished my coffee and stood up. Today I had a shift at the senior center. Mrs. Henderson wanted to discuss her new prescription. Mr. Thompson would probably tell me another war story, and I would be there for them, present and engaged, because that was what I chose to do. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. I walked back inside my small studio apartment. It was not fancy. No leather furniture or flat-screen television, just a comfortable couch I had bought at a thrift store, a small table where I ate my meals, a bookshelf full of library books. Photos of Antonio on the wall smiling at me from the past, proud of the woman I had become. This was home. Small, simple, mine. As I got ready for work, I glanced at my reflection in the mirror, the same lines around my eyes and mouth, the same gray roots starting to show in my brown hair. But something was different. My eyes looked lighter. My shoulders sat straighter. I looked like myself again. Retirement, I had learned, did not mean the end. It meant freedom. Freedom to choose how to spend your time. Freedom to choose who to spend it with. Freedom to choose yourself. And I had chosen well. I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to walk away from family because they were hurting you? Have you ever had to choose yourself over someone you love? Drop your answer in the comments. I would love to hear your stories. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel if you want to hear more stories about finding strength when life gets hard. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Maybe someone who is going through something similar. Maybe someone who needs permission to stand up for themselves. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope it gave you something to think about. I hope it reminded you that you are never too old to start over, that you are never too weak to fight back, that you deserve respect and dignity, no matter what. Take care of yourselves. Stand up for yourselves. And remember, family is not who shares your blood. Family is who loves you, respects you, and treats you like you matter. Be well.